I started to realize that Trump was thinking pretty seriously about making me his VP nominee probably earlier this year. And then he's like, I'm not saying it's going to be you, but I'm thinking very seriously about it. Have fun. We'll see after Butler, PA. And then, of course, I go back home to Ohio.
Oh, boy.
He gets shot. The initial reaction is I actually thought they had killed him because when you first see the video, he grabs his ear and then he goes down. And I'm like, oh, my God, they just killed him. And I was first I was so pissed, but then I go into like fight or flight mode with my kids. I'm like, all right, kids, we were at a mini golf place in Cincinnati, Ohio. I grab my kids up, throw them in the car, go home and load all my guns and basically stand like a sentry at our front door.
Holy shit.
And that was sort of my reaction to it.
You know what, guys? I did the exact same thing, and I'm betting that most of y'all did as well, because the truth is, JD Vance is definitely one of us. He's our guy. And I'm not even talking about his comments on how we should defund the ATF.
We need to just abolish the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms in the first place. Why does it exist if it's not preventing the gun running on the southern border by the drug cartels, but it's spying on American citizens exercising their constitutional rights?
But also, that when he thought there was a danger to his family, he immediately went home and loaded his guns. Today, let's talk about the pro-gun conversation JD Vance and Joe Rogan just had. I'm Ben, and you're watching the Minuteman Moment. Now, before we get into the video, I want to take a second to let you hear from Donald Trump Jr.
Hey, fellow hunter and gun owner, Donald Trump Jr. here with Hunter Nation and Gun Owners of America. We're a few days away from an election that is too important to sit out, and if you haven't voted, I want to impress upon you that this is your shot to save America. Our Second Amendment and hunting rights are in jeopardy. Really, all of our traditional American values are at stake. That's why I'm reaching out to good people like you to encourage you to get out and vote on or before November 5th, because when good people vote, America wins.
Now, thanks for that encouragement to get out and vote. I know I'm registered and ready to get out and vote on Tuesday. I've also made plans to bring a friend and help them vote too. So, I hope each of you watching has done so as well. And if you've already voted, thank you so much. Now, we've been reading the comments, and we get it. Not everyone is a fan of another Trump administration. But here's the thing. Harrison walls are way worse for gun rights. We're in the business of calling balls and strikes at GOA, and there's one side that strikes out way more often when it comes to defending our rights. And GOA actually got a lot done during the Trump administration that most people don't know about or remember. But at the same time, GOA is never afraid to call out any politician that wants to infringe on your rights. That's why we sued the Trump administration over bump stocks and called them out over red flag laws. But in this election, there's a clear winner here who will generally try to help gun owners and a loser who wants to attack the Second Amendment in every way they can. And having JD Vance on the ticket is a major win for gun owners. JD Vance is on the record with an A+ rating for his time in the Senate, where he voted against the ATF's pistol brace ban and also said he wants to defund the ATF and their illegal gun registry. With JD Vance as Trump's running mate this year, we'd have the most pro-Second Amendment and pro-defund the ATF White House in modern history. And this is after GOA successfully forced Joe Biden to cut ATF's budget in 2024. There are some major wins, and with JD Vance in the White House, there's the potential to get a lot done. Now, listen to these conversations he's having with Joe Rogan. Instead of the lazy, knee-jerk, blame the guns reaction, we need more politicians who can sit down with guys like Joe Rogan and talk about the real root causes of gang violence or mass public murder and how we address it.
When I talk about, obviously we have a big gun violence problem in the United States of America, and I talk about mental health because obviously that's a part of what's going on here. It's what they say is, well, every other country has mental health, meaning advocates of strict gun laws say every other country has mental health problems, but they don't have the same gun violence problem that we do. It's actually not totally true. If you look at like SSRI prescriptions, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, it's like Prozac, that category of mental health therapeutics. We take something like 6 times as much as our peer countries economically. So clearly there's something with mental health treatment in the United States that is very, very broken.
There's also a direct correlation between school shooters, mass shooters, and SSRIs.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like most of the people that have committed mass shootings, and not talking about gang shootings, but a bunch of them are on psychotropic drugs, and everybody wants to blame drugs.
Had no idea. Man,
oh yeah, like
that's crazy.
Google it because you can find out what the numbers. I know the Columbine kids were on psychotropic drugs. I know there's been a ton of school shooters.
Like prescribed?
Yes.
You're talking about like smoking weed.
No. Prescribed psychotropic drugs. Prescribed psychiatric drugs, and that if you bring that up, you are taking away from this argument they want to say where they want to blame everything on the guns. It's all about gun control, and we need more gun control. Like, a gun is a tool. There's more guns in this country than there are human beings. Okay,
I made this argument at the debate. The idea that you can gun regulate your way out of this problem is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
We have so many firearms in the United States of America that even if I bought into the gun control argument, you're never going to be able to get sufficient guns off the streets.
Right.
So it's ridiculous. So we have to actually go after some of the root causes here. It also ignores, like Finland, for example, has a lot of guns. Does not have nearly the same problem with these mass shooters that we do. I'd be interested to see what their mental health drug usage rate is too.
Did you ever see Ted Nugent debate Pierce Morgan on gun violence?
No, I never did. I thought it was pretty good.
It's really good.
Ted's a smart guy.
He's a very smart guy. But Ted actually knows the statistics. So when Pierce was bringing up all the mass shootings and all the gun violence shootings, Ted said, do you know what they really are? Do you know how many of them are suicide? Do you know how many of them are gang violence? Do you know how many of them are cops shooting bad guys? Do you know how many of them are actually mass shooters?
Yeah, but I did know that actually. That when we talk about gun violence problem, what we're really talking about primarily is gang violence.
Yes,
right. That's where a lot of the gun violence, I think a majority of the gun violence is coming from, which is not to say it's not a problem,
right?
But it's not the same problem that obviously gathers most of the headlines.
Right, and this idea that just getting guns out of people's hands, you got to bail?
We're good. I'm good if you are.
The idea that you're going to take guns away from everyone, you're going to solve the problem. It's like, no, you're still going to have people that are out of their mind, and they want to commit violence, and they're going to find another way to do it. Like, we've had other ways that people have killed a lot of people because they were sick.
Yeah.
Because they're out of their mind.
That's right.
And the fact that no one wants to look at this connection between psychiatric drugs and mass shootings is kind of insane.
They even talked about the Nashville school shooting and how the anti-gun movement is manipulating people with these tragedies.
And when there's a school shooter, we usually have the person's manifesto out there a day or two later.
Yeah.
We know nothing about the motive here, which I think is the craziest thing. You know, obviously he's motivated because he hates Donald Trump, but you don't know anything about the secondary motive. Man, it is weird. It is really
the only time
weird.
we don't get a manifesto is when they're trans. When they're trans, they hide those manifestos.
The Nashville shooter, man, that was crazy.
Have you ever read any of it?
I've read some of it.
It's pretty wild.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, that
and they
guy,
decide that's bad for the cause.
That's
so
right.
They decided
they decided to suppress it. But no, the Nashville shooter, I mean, just while we're on the topic, went in and murdered a bunch of children at a Christian school because he or she, like whatever, was motivated by some very radical trans ideology.
Yes.
And that is something we should talk more about as a country.
Now, it's really important what they just said. By sitting down and having a normal conversation and not demonizing each other for any disagreements on gun regulations, JD Vance and Joe Rogan were able to agree on this one key point. The media's release of mass public murderers' manifestos is political. Did the killer choose the most popular rifle in America? Use that to call for a ban on the most popular rifle in America. But if the manifesto reveals something politically damaged to the anti-gun movement, like the mass murderer committing a hate crime against Christians, then the anti-gunners want to censor that manifesto. So, that's why we at GOA don't advocate for any of these manifestos getting published. Yes, we need to use them to create criminal profiles of killers and learn more on how to stop them in the future. But these killers write manifestos because the news will give them a gigantic platform to publish when no one else would. As long as they kill enough people, they'll get national or even international publication. So, we just want to deny these sick, deranged murderers the platform they desire. Now, wasn't that a productive conversation on how to deal with the problems of mass public murder? I think it's way more beneficial for society to talk about all of that than it is to discuss violating the Second Amendment for the millionth time. At GOA, we're glad to see A+ rated Senator JD Vance having productive conversations with Joe Rogan on these important issues. If he's elected, we look forward to working with him on real common sense solutions. But remember, get out and vote. And of course, whoever wins the White House, GOA will never give up the gun rights fight. We have every intention of holding whoever is elected accountable to the Constitution. And thanks for watching. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with GOA's latest fights for your rights.